Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. I want to start you off with the all hazards weather map, and if you turn your attention down there to parts of southern Mississippi, as well as Louisiana, Georgia, and Florida, we can see we've got freeze warnings out this morning. Temperatures pretty cold as the center of that colder air has snuck right out of the western Corn Belt, has taken aim now on the south and southeast. Wind chill advisories down here in parts of southern Florida as well, where we'll get wind chill temperatures that will be in the 20s, and that is pretty brutally cold for a lot of folks down there. So taking a look at our 4:15 a.m. temperature, so this is relatively early in the morning. You can see the center of that colder air tucked way up here in Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin region, where temperatures are below 0 Fahrenheit. But the leading edge of the freezing air has come all the way down here to parts of eastern Texas and into Louisiana, as well as into much of the northern third of the state of Florida. So some pretty cold air, and one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is, how long is this around, and are there any things in the near term that are going to change this up as we progress into the month of February? We're going to get to that at the end of this video. Now, the southeast is going to get a relatively quiet week this week until we get toward the weekend. This is looking out at total accumulated precipitation through Thursday evening. We are watching a system that will be emerging here out of parts of eastern Texas and Louisiana, Arkansas, and in Oklahoma. And this particular system has a little bit different flavor to it than the past few systems. There is a coastal low that will be forming here on a trough that is moving here right along the east coast of the United States, but it's really going to be too far offshore to be giving us much precipitation. Could get some cloud cover out of it, but not much precipitation. So thinking about precipitation, I wanted to show you some of the grand totals we've had here over the last 30 days. So this was valid through yesterday on the 20th, and there's a broad section. If you just kind of lop it off, here is the Ohio River Valley and the lower Mississippi River Valley into the Tennessee Valley, getting all the way over into this section of the southeast. I mean, inside that area, there are several locations that have seen between 10 and 15 inches of rain just in the last 30 days, making this exceptionally wet. And even over the last couple of weeks, take a look at the percent of normal precipitation. We've really kind of lopped off coastal Carolinas, getting into the southern parts of Georgia, and then down here into Florida. And I'm going to tell you something, over the next 10 days, I don't see much coming into Florida in terms of precipitation. Many of our systems have been forming really somewhere, well, honestly, out of the Baja, moving over into the parts of the Four Corner states, so Arizona and New Mexico, and then they've just raced toward the Great Lakes. And you can see that is where the heaviest precipitation has been. So this has been good to work on some of the drier conditions that we've had in parts of central and southern Texas, although far southern Texas is still showing up quite dry. Now, the reason why I stress this is that the next system coming through has got a little different flavor. So let's go back again to Thursday night. This is the difference in the flavor. You're looking here in the upper levels where the pressure's 300 millibars, and these are the wind speeds. So this is the jet stream. So we look for the fastest winds. Now, in previous systems, a key difference has been the position of the fastest winds, which I'm circling here, going into a trough. Where they have been is downstream of the trough. They've been here lifting these systems to the north and east. Well, this next system has a little different flavor. With the main trough axis here, the fastest winds are there, which means this system is actually going to dig a little bit, and it's going to slow it down. And as it slows it down, we're going to get a multi-day precipitation event inside that circle. And we need to analyze that. And I'm just going to tell you, waiting in the wings coming off the Pacific Ocean is a relatively strong zonal piece of the jet stream with a subtropical branch cutting underneath it, which means as we get into week 2, we're going to stay over on the wetter side of things. So let's get this rolling here. This is our high resolution modeling first. Stop it right here at 6 a.m. this morning. And what do we see? High pressure is dominating. But the next little system is emerging out of the Four Corner states by the time we get into midday today on Tuesday. So bringing in some snow to parts of New Mexico, and then initially some rain throughout much of the western half of the state of Texas. Maybe here around Amarillo, we do be on the lookout for possibly the switch over toward some snow at times. It's interesting to say, but this will be elevation dependent, and it's going to rely on what those temperatures looked like through the middle of the day today into this evening. So we'll keep a close eye on it if you're in this area. But high pressure is still in control. Here's that coastal low I mentioned, not causing too much problem for our southeast coast. The high pressure keeps it at bay. So by the time I get you out to 12 a.m. Wednesday, so right at the beginning of Wednesday through early Wednesday morning, we will be seeing snow and potentially some ice out ahead of this system in parts of Kansas and Oklahoma as it by 6 a.m. starts to move into Arkansas. Now, at this time, we do still have that colder wedge of air in place, and so it's going to be overrunning that, which is why we see the ice thread in through this area. Now, this will be likely a freezing drizzle setup here. This isn't going to be, inches and inches of ice. No, different setup here. But the system is just slow going. I mean, I'm out here now to Wednesday evening, getting now into Thursday morning, and you just don't see it moving too fast. And it just stretch you back over a day and a half here. And because the system is digging rather than lifting, well, it just hangs out longer. So we do have a wintry mix inside of this area. And I want you to watch very carefully in eastern Oklahoma, through Arkansas and southern Missouri as we work our way through the day on Wednesday for the potential for some ice. To the south of it, relatively heavy rainfall at times in parts of Arkansas and Louisiana. And again, I've got you all that now to 6 a.m. Thursday. So it took 2 days just to go from here to here. That's the significance of the digging trough. So from this, we need to pick it up with the European model. Let's click play and pause it right where we've gotten to so far. So this is now Thursday morning. So from Thursday morning, getting into Thursday afternoon and evening, this system's still slowly creeping along, spreading its rain now into Tennessee, Kentucky, out of Mississippi, into Arkansas. By the time we get to Friday morning, Friday afternoon, Friday evening, it's now spreading into the Appalachian Mountains all the way down into parts of southern Georgia. But I'm going to tell you something. The amount of precip down here is relatively light as the system spins its way out into the Ohio River Valley up toward the northeast. Behind it, more high pressure comes in. But I'm going to play from here because I've gotten you out all the way to next Sunday afternoon. So you saw that system took about 3.5 days just to skirt across the southern part of the United States. We'll take a look at the precipitation totals in a minute. But starting on Sunday afternoon, which is about right here, I'm just going to click play and watch another system emerges next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You see, as long as we keep the weather patterns in their current configuration, this is going to be the name of the game. So take a look at these precipitation totals. This is just through next Monday evening. So this is about a week's worth of rainfall here. We can see overall that eastern Texas, widespread 1/2 inch to 1.25 inches, and that gets all the way up into parts of eastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana as well. So that's what we're expecting out of just the first system, not the one I just showed you at the end of the 10-day time period. We'll get to that in a second. Here's what's going on over the southeast. Again, look at how coastal Carolinas in through here and down into Florida are going to miss out on this, basically because while the system digs initially, it does eventually head on off to the north and east rather than to continue to push through the southeast. That is the difference here in the next two systems that are coming through. So what do we end up getting? Well, it'll be hit or miss because there's going to be some thunderstorm activity with this. But overall, we do see widespread 1/2 inch to 1.25 inches across much of our region that has been very, very wet as of late. Now, for those thinking about snow, the heaviest snow is going to be up here in parts of Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois, and then eventually stretching into Wisconsin. But as the system curls itself through, watch out in parts of Arkansas, southern Missouri, and eastern Oklahoma for the potential for a quick hitting inch or two as the system finally exits through and some colder air returns on the back side of it. Now, I told you week 2 is much of the very same. The jet stream split in the Pacific, and the southern branch is coming around like this, and that's why we see again a pretty wide swath of our southern region showing up on the wetter side of things into week 2. Now, I want to do some quick analysis over here in the southeast where we've continued to see the very heavy rainfall. This goes back 180 days. Now look at this. This was the super hot and dry September. And then since then, October, November, December, January, we just slowly have started to work our way back up such that we are now above trend on precipitation as we've begun our new year. And in terms of temperatures, well, about to talk about those, the heat in September gave way to October, November, and December showing up, well, kind of mixed, but with some cooler weather at time. But we have been on a warm pattern since about the 23rd of December. And we got some big questions to answer as to when that pattern changes, because this is what our last month has looked like in terms of departure from normal temperatures. Very, very warm over much of the eastern half of North America. So our next 5 days will be occupied by some cooler weather. And the question is, does it last? Is it longer duration? Well, let's just take a look at what our National Digital Forecast database, what it's showing in terms of high temperature anomalies. Certainly today, much of our southern regions between 5 and in some locations 20 degrees colder than average. But as we play this one out, let's pause it as we get here into Tuesday's departure. You can already start to see the warmth spreading through the northern tier states. Well, I say warmth. This is compared to normal, remember. And we still stay between 5 and about 15 degrees cooler than average across the southern region. This is now getting into Thursday. The cooler pattern's still there in the south. Friday, Saturday, and by the time we get out to Sunday, it's really only the southern tip of Florida that maintains, well, here, a 2 to 4 degree cool bias. But we lose that cooler bias as we work our way into next week. So it's just a near-term shot at some colder air, and we're going to make a case for why we think maybe that might be the name of the game for the next 15 days here. Because look at this, day 5 through 10, it's just what we're hanging on to down here. The warmth has already started to come back in parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. And then day 10 through 15, we've now covered our entire southern region back over to near average to warmer than average temperatures. So what's making all of this possible? The cold air is here, and it's here. And so whenever we see that, we see the colder air tucked away over Alaska and Greenland into the North Atlantic. Any trough that comes sweeping through the southern part of the United States does not have an anchor to bitterly cold air. So it's a rainmaker, doesn't bring in the bitterly cold air. That's all that is. That is all subtropical jet stream driven for the most part here. And as a consequence, this is just not anchored to the bitterly cold air. There must be a change here or here in order for this entire pattern to break. And that's what I'm going to be addressing in tomorrow's long range. We have right now several of our global teleconnections all pointing toward the same thing. And I should have even written here the MJO. Sorry, that's poor handwriting, but whatever. It's coming out again at phase 5 and 6. While that is all going on, we will not shake this pattern that we are currently in. But I'm going to put a caveat in here and say this will not last forever. Right now, all of these pieces are what we call constructively interfering. They're all aiding one another. When one of them starts to break off and change, and that happens in a nonlinear system, then what will go on is we'll have this cascading of events toward a different pattern. But while this lasts, well, this is the month of February over there on the right, precipitation anomalies. It says split the flow up, just like we've been talking about, and keep this section of the continent dry, but keep the south going strong with the wetter weather. I'll say this. The models are not going to be the first to advertise when this change is going to happen. We're going to have to look for these differences in other ways. I look forward to giving you that update tomorrow. Have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.